And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. It's Thursday evening, and y'all know what time it is. It's Keepin' It Rio time. And if you haven't been watching for the last 4 years, you need to go back and watch all of the episodes because I'm sure you've missed out on some wonderful content, and you've missed out on some amazing conversations. Today, my friends, is going to be no different. You've come to expect nothing but the best from Keepin' It Rio, and I try my best to fulfill that expectation every week. So today, this is going to be a great conversation. My guest and I literally just met about 6 minutes ago, but I'm already feeling the energy. We've got a lot of cool things in common, and I'm pretty hopped up on caffeine, so I think it should be pretty decent today. No hesitation whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. Let me welcome today's guest to the show, Mr. John Goehring. John, welcome to Keepin' It Rio. How's everything going for you today?
Chuck, I'm doing well too. I would be lying if I said I didn't have a little caffeine in me myself. So, we're gonna keep the energy up today, but I love your energy already, and I love the show. I can't say I've gone back and watched every single one. How long would that take? Probably a couple 100 hours. But
it would take you, I'm guessing about 250 hours right now. So we're working on it. They say 10,000 hours is what it takes to become a master. And obviously I'm not quite there yet, but my goal is 2,500 episodes. And who knows, maybe I get to 2,500 and say, hell, let's do another 25. But we're getting better every week. At least I'd like to hope so. Not like my golf game where the more I practice, the worse I get. I think that we're starting to get a little bit better here with this podcasting, and it is a lot of fun. So I appreciate you going back and watching any of them. It means a lot to me.
Of course. I don't know. Yeah, there is something about that golf game that just it's like it goes in the opposite direction the more you try, right? It's like I think
Story of my life.
But no, I'm sure the show has really improved. I'm curious, from the beginning, was it really rough? Or did you feel like, oh, this sucks? I'm awful at this, and now you're a natural?
Well, I'm just going to be honest with you here. This might sound a little bit sketchy, but I thought I was the man from episode 1.
Oh, okay.
We started with a different format completely. It used to be a live show, and I would have 3 of my co-hosts that were on here with me, and we just cut up about all kinds of stuff. We talk a little bit about our roofing company, but it was mostly about gas station hot dogs, places to go fishing in San Antonio, restaurants that we like to go to, and things like that. We had a different dynamic. It was kind of like the old school Howard Stern show where we'd have a cast of characters and we'd play off of each other. And after about 100 episodes, we kind of decided to go a different route and started doing it as a one-on-one or, one-on-two type interview format. And I feel like I've gotten better, but I do watch some of the first ones, and the first couple were a little bit rough as far as our presentation, but we started off, well. I had this audio from the very beginning because I wanted something that would let me continue and would kind of motivate me to say, hey, you're looking at a $600 setup over there in the corner that you don't use anymore, you big dummy. And that's all it took, just a little bit of encouragement from myself. But I do think it's gotten better. I've had some amazing guests over the last 214, 215, whatever episodes. And today is going to be no different, my friend.
I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. So let's kick this bad boy off. Let's start with the age-old question, which is one of my favorite ways to start this, and then we'll just kind of run with where the conversation goes. But give us a little bit of insights into your background and tell us a little bit about your story, and we'll just take it from there, my friend. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. I grew up just like any other kid, upstate New York, suburban household, lifestyle, all that. But I was always interested in the media because, especially at the time I was growing up, we were starting to realize how much the media influences our lives. And I mean, here we are doing something media based. Podcasting is part of that. And so I thought, well, I should really maybe pursue becoming a newspaper writer, right? Like that's the thing to do. My dad always read the newspaper on Sundays, so maybe it was still a thing, right? And I don't know if it's just the industry just didn't thrive or what happened, or maybe these things called smartphones. I don't know what it was, but the newspaper industry wasn't the way to go. And I found that out first day of college when I walked into my small college here, upstate New York. was walking around campus, was thinking, am I going to write for the newspaper? Am I going to try and do something else with my life? I just don't want to do something boring. And then I literally was walking down the hall of the student union building, walked right past college radio station, and thought to myself, it's interesting. I listen to the radio. I'm one of those weirdos who like it turns on the radio at the same time to, listen to the particular segment of the particular show. I know all the daily programming on the local talk show. Kind of weird for an 18-year-old, but that was me. And so I walked in, and from there, the rest was history. I immediately on that first day fell in love with it. They didn't put me on the air right away, thankfully, but I got to shadow some people, got to kind of get to know the industry a little bit, had a great mentor there who taught me the ropes, and eventually within the next couple of months was able to get on the air, did some football play-by-play broadcasting, which was still some of the most fun I've had in my entire life. And then just kept moving up from there. Was able to get an internship here locally in Rochester, New York, and then was able to turn that into a job, and then have been on air ever since, but also decided to leave the industry and not pursue a full-time role when I realized that radio was starting to suffer the same fate as those newspapers that I talked about earlier. So what ended up happening is I started my own thing here, which I'm doing now, which is voiceover and audio production, while still contracting for the radio stations and keeping my feet wet in all of these areas that I'm so passionate about. And that's the extremely abbreviated version, but now I do things like voice audiobooks, voice videos, voice narrate different things, including radio commercials, those types of things, and then produce podcasts and other audio and video for other people who are making content, because content, just like the media, is such a powerful medium of the way we communicate now.
It really is. And we were just kind of briefly talking about that before we hit the record. I'm in the roofing industry, and content creation is absolutely imperative at this point if you're going to be successful and kind of separate yourself from the others in the market. But let's start back with this radio concept, because I am also a huge radio fan. I have been for my entire life. I would, I get up every morning. I'd listen to the Howard Stern in the morning back in the day. Still to this day, I listen to the Bubba the Love Sponge show every day.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy, because you talk about, how radio has kind of evolved and changed over the years. Newspaper, unfortunately, I definitely agree with you. I think it's kind of gone the way of the dinosaur, which is sad, because that was a huge part of life growing up. We would get up and go get the daily paper, open up the sports page, find out what was happening. But as we've continued to evolve as a world and in the way that things have gone technologically, it's kind of become a little bit passe, and there are still people that do it. But radio, I think, is another one that's kind of, like you say, going down that path. And it's very sad and unfortunate, but it's something we have to pay attention to. So tell me a little bit about this foray into it. I know we just went through the abbreviated, but you go into the college station, you say, hey, this looks like something that would be kind of cool. Let me figure out if this is something I can do. You work your way onto the air. Tell me just a little bit, and we'll kind of go into modern times quickly, but tell me about that first time that you got to hit that microphone button and say, hey, coming at you live, and how that felt. Were you scared? Was it something that you thought, maybe this isn't right for me? Or did you just know immediately, hey, this is going to be a lot of fun and I'm going to love this?
Oh man, you know immediately. It's like, this didn't happen with my wife. They say, like, the first time you see someone, you fall in love, right? And then it didn't happen with her. That took some time, and now I'm madly in love with her. But radio was a little bit different, because it was like the first time I did it, all of a sudden, like, I don't know if the angels sang or what happened, but I was actually broadcasting a football game, and that was the first thing that I did, because pretty much a week after I walked into the station, they were like, hey, we need a football play-by-play announcer. The first game is next week. And I was like, well, I like sports. I watch football on TV all the time. I think I could do this. So that was the first thing that I ever did on a Saturday afternoon. Pre-game show started at 11:30 a.m. I still remember kickoff was at noon at Bob Boozer Stadium. And, about 2,000 people filing in. As a Division III school, not a huge school. but I felt the energy and the music was playing, and I had my headphones on and I'm hearing the board operator count me down and 15 seconds to go. And I'm memorizing those first 10, 15 seconds, those first couple lines that I have written out, that they call it the establishing shot on TV when you see Jim Nance and Tony Romo standing next to each other. And it's the same thing just on radio. And I go live from Bob Boozer Stadium. And at that point, I'm like, all those nerves faded away. It's like in a football game, they say, for like the Super Bowl, for example, you're getting all fired up. You got those nerves, you got those butterflies in your stomach. And then like the first hit happens, maybe on that opening kickoff, and boom, you're right in the game. And that's how I felt. And then after that, it was like, I don't know what it was, if I was like divinely inspired or something, but like my words just kept flowing out of my mouth. And I was like, this is cool. I feel like this is pretty natural for me. And there were some things that, and I got coached and trained on how to improve. I'm not saying I was great right off the bat, but it was at least natural feeling. And it felt like this is where I belong.
Yes, sir. I can definitely appreciate that. And it's one of those things where if I could go back in time, I would have probably tried to pursue something like that sooner, but I had no idea that it was going to be as fun as it is. And obviously, like you say, what we're doing is not maybe that high level. I don't have millions and millions of people listening or watching, or maybe I do. I don't know. But it's one of those things where the first time we did this Keepin It Rio 200 plus episodes ago, I just felt the same thing. And it was like, this is kind of cool. We were live. So it was one of those, hey, if you guys mess up, it is what it is. You can't go back and edit it. And I think doing them live really helped me because it took away some of that fear, because it's just one of those, we probably had 3 people that watched the first episode. Most of them were family or friends or some people that I knew in roofing that couldn't care less. But as it continues to evolve and get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you start to reach a broader audience, you start to recognize, okay, well, hey, this is going to be a lot of fun. I don't feel any nerves about it. And I think that's a feeling that I can definitely understand. And I've been there. So that's pretty awesome. You do the college radio for a while. You're a football announcer. You're having a great time doing that. You get out of school, and now you're looking at a career in this wonderful industry. Tell me a little bit about the transformation from doing college radio to getting into a professional environment and actually being a professional broadcaster.
Well, thankfully, the smooth part was that I was interning in college, and then I ended up working part-time, about half-time, while I was in college, reporting the traffic in the morning and the afternoon on the radio. And you hear that person come on and tell you about where the backups are on the. Really, the whole point of that is not so much to report the traffic, but it's an extra opportunity to get a sponsor in. So what they care about is they don't care if you have the traffic right. I mean, you could say there's an accident anywhere you want to say there's an accident, but the important thing is to read that sponsorship word for word and make sure that you get that, Chuck Allen's roofer, make sure that that's in there. So that's what I got to do for a while, which really honed my skills. And then came the opportunity to go full-time there, and which was very exciting. And, I felt like it was a lifelong dream, sort of, even though I kind of started wanting to go into newspapers, but close enough, right? It was kind of a lifelong dream being fulfilled, doing something that I wanted to do instead of being, I don't know, like a secretary somewhere. Nothing wrong with that, but that's what I wanted to avoid. And so I got to work there for a little bit full-time and enjoy that environment. But that was right around the time that iHeartRadio decided they were going to lay off 2,000 employees. And the company that I worked for wasn't iHeartRadio, but it was still sent shockwaves through the radio industry. And I'm one of these guys who really likes security. I'm one of these guys who any sort of uncertainty kind of bothers me. It's something I'm working on, but it's still, it really just doesn't sit well with me. So I decided to do what all people who want security do, and that is go out and start their own business, right? It sounds silly, but it's true. There was just so little security in the radio industry. And part of that is what we call syndication. And syndication is where now, instead of having a live show for every single part of the day on all the different radio stations, we can now put on a show from New York City or like you said, the Howard Stern show, for example, and put that on our station and not have to pay someone to sit there. It's just on autopilot. So I kind of recognize that could have been coming down the road. And then on top of that, in radio, another big threat is the idea of aging out of your demographic. So I was a personality. I actually still am a personality for a local rock alternative station, and it's kind of the demographic we'd say is 18 to 34. And so I was kind of looking down the road and thinking, okay, if I want a family, if I want kids, if I want a stable lifestyle, being on a radio station that's 18 to 34 and potentially aging out of that demographic, and now them saying, sorry, we don't have a place for you anymore, that's a real threat. So I actually thought, as crazy as it sounds, that starting my own thing while still staying in that world and keeping those relationships and now still working contract for them would be the most stable thing to do, as weird as it sounds.
Right. I tell people the same thing. The reason I'm doing this roofing company is because I just didn't want to work for anybody else. And some days I regret that decision, but other days I think, wow, this is pretty amazing. I get to go out and help a lot of people. I get to do what I love. If I don't want to work on a Wednesday afternoon and I want to go play 9 holes of golf, I can do that. I've traveled the world and had a great time and made so many amazing friends along the way. And I really think that the dynamic that you're talking about there, where it's like the medium itself is kind of transitioning. I think that when we got hit with the pandemic, a lot of craziness kind of changed the way that the world was being done. A lot of these remote programs were now all of a sudden pushed to the forefront. Podcasting, I think, became absolutely huge. And I think the impact of that has really kind of changed the way that it looks. And I always wonder, if we hadn't gone through that period of time, would it have changed as dramatically as it has? Probably not. So that's one of those things that we look at and say, hey, you know what? There were some serious transitions going on there. And I really appreciate what you say about aging out, because, it's kind of sad. I listen to some of the radio stations sometimes and it's like, you're live on San Antonio's hit station. And it's some 90-year-old guy that's trying to keep up with the hits. And you feel bad because it's like, man, that's someone that didn't have a game plan or didn't have the foresight to realize it's about to happen to you. So let's talk a little bit about your venture. You decide, okay, this isn't as stable as I would like. Having the understanding and being able to say, okay, let's transition, let's adapt and kind of pivot to a different move. Tell me a little bit about the business that you decided to get into. We talked a little bit about it, audio, video production, and so on and so forth. But tell me a little bit about the initial startup phase of your business, because this is another one of those things where, there's a lot of competition. You've got a lot of things that you've got to make sure that you're on the top of your game with. And you don't just run out into the world and say, hey, I'm doing this, and have millions and millions of people come knocking on your door. So tell me about the initial startup phase of the business, and we're going to run with it from there, because I got some good questions for you.
Man, you're taking me back to some rough days, even though it was only like 6 years ago, but still those rough days that were early on. I thought it was going to be easier than it was, because I thought to myself, well, I'm talented. I got this good voice that everybody's always complimenting. You got a great voice. You should work in radio. And I'm like, actually, I do. And that was always kind of a cool thing to tell people. I don't know if it's an ego stroke or whatever, but I ended up doing voiceover, because that's what everybody does who leaves radio. And I thought to myself, well, all these people are leaving radio and successfully finding even more income in voiceover. And there's actually entire podcasts devoted to, you want a voiceover business, here's how you grow your voiceover business. There's online sites where you can sign up and find voiceover work. And it's really a booming industry, believe it or not, even though it's like voiceover. What is that? You just talk? Pretty much. Yeah. So I decided to go into that because I thought that's what I wanted to do. And the early stages were rough, because what I didn't understand is business. I understood the radio side of things. I understood how to make sure you're in the right register for whatever project you're working on, make sure your delivery is right, all those mechanical stuff. But what I didn't know was how to run a business. And what I also didn't take into account is that 2,000 people were just laid off from iHeartRadio. Another 500 or so were later laid off by another big radio company called Entercom, and likewise for several different big radio companies. There were thousands of people who were thinking the exact same thing as me. And they went into the radio industry, and now they've gotten out of it and thought, well, what's my next natural step? Well, I still got this great microphone here. I think I'm going to go into voiceover. And that's when the whole industry became really saturated. And I just thought to myself, I need to be better than everyone, right?
Sounds simple.
Got to be better than everyone. And that's when the issues started.
Okay. Well, before we get into that, I do want to share something. And this is a very little known story, but I myself have actually done a voiceover commercial in my career.
Really?
And incredibly random. One day I'm scrolling through Facebook. I was in my office over in College Station, Texas at that time. And there was just some random guy. I don't even remember his name, to be honest, but I remember the name of the company. And it just said, we're looking for someone to do a voiceover for a masonry company in Pennsylvania. And for whatever happened in that moment, I was just struck. And I thought, you know what? I'll do it. I typed in and said, yes, I'll do it. And the guy asked if I'd ever done one before. And of course, well, sure. Why, yeah, I do voiceovers all the time, right? I don't have any examples to prove any of this, but sure thing, I do them. And about 6 takes later, I won the job. And it was the craziest thing because it was just a random afternoon. And I did a couple of them. I'd send them to the guy and he'd say, well, can you put a little bit more tone into this? Or can you be a little more excited when you mention this? Or slow down when you say the phone number and the website and yada, yada. I did all that. And I ended up randomly on a commercial for a masonry company in Pennsylvania. So I definitely understand the dog eat dog mentality that goes into that. I think I was competing against probably 1 or 2 other people, but I was the best that day. And to those 1 or 2 other people, I hope that you continued on in the field, because I just wanted to do that one so I could tell this story one day on my podcast. And there's the day. It just happened. So I did a voiceover one time. I understand how that goes, and it was a lot of fun. And I really like what you say about all these people that come into this market just kind of unannounced. They weren't expecting to do it, but like you say, what's the next step? I'm not going to go be a rocket scientist. I'm not going to go be a lawyer. I've got to find something that kind of suits my skill set. You get in there with all these people, and I think this is where the mindset initially starts. And it's not just with what you do, but it's business in general, and it's life. How do I separate from the pack? I've got to be better than everybody. I. And I think the mindset early on is I've got to kill my competition because they're trying to kill me, right? So you have that mindset starting out. Obviously, it's a little more difficult than just kicking on the mic and getting a whole bunch of clients. Tell me about these initial issues that come up, because I know there are plentiful, and you have a lot of time to think about every decision you've made in your life at that point. Probably some sleepless nights, probably some days where you're questioning everything that you've ever done. Tell us a little bit about those fun times early on before you had the breakthrough, and then we're going to kick the door open and really get into that breakthrough. But let's set the table, so to speak. Tell us a little bit about those initial days.
Well, you think that you separate yourself. I don't want to, don't get me wrong. Separating yourself, I believe, is important. But the way that you do that is through your work ethic. It's through putting in the extra reps, right? It's not through trying to beat the competition. That's what I was trying to do early on, because I thought, well, I just got to be better than everyone. That's it. I just got to be better. And maybe it's the athlete in me or whatever it is. It's just the competitive nature of, here's 5,000 people who are entering this industry, and there's not necessarily 5,000 jobs to go around. So I just have to be better. And then that leads to, in voiceover especially, it leads to, I have to be everything to everyone. So I was trying to be the 60-year-old man. I was trying to be the 30-year-old woman, for crying out loud, which there are some tools to change your voice and make you sound, that's possible. But I was trying to be everything to everyone because I had this mindset, the scarcity mindset of there's only so much to go around. If I don't pounce on every single opportunity, I'm just not going to get it. So early on, that was the thing. That was how my sleepless nights and how my days were spent, is trying to figure out how I can possibly be the voice of everything. And that was kind of frustrating because it's really hard to be what you're not. And it's really hard to be continually beating down this door of opportunities for something, and being the odd guy out, being the one who's, either 40 years younger or the opposite gender, or whatever it is, and trying to win these opportunities against people who they actually fit. And then you just feel like a loser because you don't get any jobs.
Right. And this is exactly where we can have a cross-pollination translation type moment. I'm in the roofing industry. Believe it or not, there are, I think, hundreds of thousands of roofing companies in the United States. The barrier for entry is relatively low. I'm not hating on my own industry, but it's one of these deals where a lot of guys start off on the labor side. I drove a truck for 12 years, and I used to deliver shingles to houses for the roofing crews to be able to do the work. And you get a lot of these guys that are doing that, and they're out there working in the sun, and they're killing themselves. And it's like, you know what? I see the owner of the company is doing this, and he's successful, so I'm going to do it. And it doesn't always translate over, because when you start with that initial setup in a roofing, a lot of guys have the same mentality. I've got to be better than everybody. I've got to appeal to every single person that I talk to, because every single job is precious. If I don't get every single roof that I work with, I'm going to probably go out of business. And a lot of guys start off with the, hey, we're going to be the cheapest. We're going to be the one that does it for less. We'll do the same quality and we'll do everything amazing, but we're going to cost less. And, you start to realize that mindset doesn't really work, but you can't help but have that starting out, because it is kind of a dog eat dog world. And in my industry, there are a lot of people that have that mindset still to this day. We just got a hailstorm in San Antonio last night, and I wonder how many brand new roofing companies popped up over the last 12 hours. How many people are going out to live that American dream now without any real sense of what they're getting themselves into, without the understanding of how a business is actually run, and knowing that, you've got limitations. You can't go out there and sell 100 roofs on your first day, because you don't have the means to support that. You don't have the capability to produce at that level. You've got to kind of keep your mindset in a specialized type area rather than trying to appeal to everyone. And it's amazing how those things can translate across basically any kind of, industry, any kind of line of work. And I totally understand that. So the thing that's happened with us in our industry is we've gotten kind of two groups. It's the haves and the have-nots, or the scarcity and the abundance, like you say. And after you finally figure out, okay, look, millions and millions of people live in this country. Excuse me. We've got houses galore. If I do a roof every day for the rest of my life, there's still going to be millions of them left. Now we start to think, oh, goodness, I apologize for that. Probably will edit that out of the episode, but that's my coffee coming back. We will start to realize, okay, I can't help everybody. Everybody is not my ideal client. They don't all want to work with me. They're looking for different things, and there are people that fit everybody's mold. So once you have this realization, you can kind of pare it down and say, what is my ideal client? How do I reach them ideally? And how do I focus on being the very best in my specific genre, my specific demographic? Tell me a little bit about the process. Once you realize you can't help everybody, you can't be the 30-year-old woman, you can't be the 60-year-old man, you figure out exactly what your demographic is. Tell me how you focused in on that, and how you kind of developed a different mindset to get into that specific niche.
Well, it was serendipitous in a couple of different ways, because I wish I could say that it was all me, that I just kind of like figured it out one day and it dawned on me. But it was a conversation that I had with a gentleman who had also left the radio industry, gotten laid off, and had some success in voiceover. And I was kind of looking for a mentor, and he's an older guy that I'm still close with today. Although if he's listening to this, you're not actually an older guy. You're a young, vibrant guy who I've been had the honor of being my mentor for a while. And he just started talking with me like I was a real person. Like that first conversation we had, I was like, my God, like we can talk to each other. My mindset got so competitive that it was almost like I can't even like have a cup of coffee with these people. And he wasn't trying to compete with me. He knew we weren't in the same line of work, even though we weren't appealing to the same clients. And so we just had a great conversation. And you know what, even if we were, there's still enough to go around, right? And he told me something that really changed my view of things, and I still try to keep this in my mind today, even after going through this transformation. Is he told me that everybody in voiceover is an ice cream flavor. And I went, what are you talking about? And he said, well, not everybody wants kiwi flavored ice cream. Some people just want vanilla, but some other projects require strawberry cheesecake lemonade. Like everybody has those nuances where maybe we can all be vanilla and chocolate, but everybody has enough nuances to make us unique and special. And there is, believe it or not, a taste for coffee flavored ice cream. I don't know about you, Chuck, but that's not me. I like my coffee in a cup, not in a dish, not in the ice cream form. But when I started taking that, I really, that started the transformation. That was the very beginning of it. When I went, that aha moment of, well, no wonder he's not trying to compete with me. We're not the same ice cream flavor. The guy's got this deep, gravelly voice, and he does a lot of car commercials and those salesy kind of stuff. And I like to narrate stuff. I'm more of the upbeat, happy narrator kind of guy. And so we can be in the same industry looking for technically the same type of work, but still be working together and trying to help one another out. And that's when it started clicking for me. I got a master's degree at the time at Syracuse University in media management, which is like the business side of media. And that was a whole transformational moment for me because I didn't know the business side, and actually taking some courses. Now I look back and I think, well, I probably could have done it for a lot cheaper, like on YouTube University, because there's so much good stuff out there. But getting that college degree in that business mindset was huge. And then I started working with my competition and started creating referral partnerships. And that's when things really started to go up. But I couldn't have done that without the right mindset, right? So it wasn't as easy as just getting to know some other people in voiceover and creating referral partnerships. It started with the mindset.
Yeah, and you're spot on. It really takes one of those, like you said, an aha moment where you realize I am different than everybody. And my specific needs and wants and skill set are going to be completely different from a 24-year-old guy that just started a roofing company last week that's got a little bit of experience. And I tell people, I've got a resume. I've been doing this for 27 years now. And I've got a background that nobody else in my industry has. So when I first started in what I'm doing now, which is the contracting side, I had actually been in distribution for 12 years prior. I told you I drove a truck. I used to meet a lot of different owners, and I could kind of see that there were different personalities in this industry from the early days of it. And it kind of stuck with me. I started a roofing supply branch over in North Carolina, and I got to meet all kinds of different roofers. And that's when you realize, okay, look, this guy is not going to get to go into a gated community and talk to these multi-million-dollar people, but the people that are over there are not going to be able to go onto a commercial project and talk about what they're doing. So when you realize that there's enough for everybody to go around, and you start to kind of fine tune yourself and realize this is my specific demographic, this is what I'm looking for. But you do still meet all these different people, and you start to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm not the right fit for you, Mrs. Jones, but my friend Steve over here at this roofing company, he specializes in what you're doing. You start to kind of get that bond with a select few, and then you start to realize that mindset is actually pretty prominent. Now, like I said, in roofing, there's still a huge, 50-50 split, I'll almost say. And this became very obvious to me a couple years ago when a roofer here in San Antonio posted a Facebook ad, or not an ad, but just a post that he was moving from a different market, needed some help moving some furniture into his home. And I reached out and said, hey, man, let me help you out. So myself and a couple of my guys went over. We started helping carrying couches down a 3-story apartment complex stairwell, helping this guy out. We took a picture, and it was kind of like our 2 branded vehicles were face to face with each other. And it was like, hey, this was really cool. I helped this guy out. And at that moment, John, that's when I realized there's always going to be that scarcity mindset in life, because so many people attacked us. That's the dumbest thing ever. Why would you do that? That's your competition. Wow. You guys are supposed to be fighting with each other, and you're not supposed to be friends, and yada, yada, yada. But then I also realized there was another half. And the half was one of the most prominent people in our industry shared that post and said, how great is this? These guys get it. They're working together. They're helping each other. And I saw the exact opposite mindset where people were saying, yeah, that's awesome. We want to do that. We want to help each other out and make our industry better as a whole, because we all realize, maybe you compete against each other every once in a while for a couple of jobs here or there, but not really. And that guy and myself have been great friends ever since, but it really opened up my mind and made me realize, maybe I was looking a little bit like these guys over here talking about, screw those guys. We're better than them. We can do a better roof, yada, yada. And I'd get myself into situations sometimes that I didn't want to be in, working with people that I didn't want to be working with, just because I assumed that that's what I was supposed to do. But when you have that moment of clarity and you realize, you know what, this is kind of cool. We can work together. We give each other referrals in the same market to this day. And it's a wonderful thing. So you make that realization, you start realizing, okay, I can work with these guys instead of against them. It's a lot easier to go with the current than it is to swim upstream all the time and to try to butt heads with everybody, because it's going to get frustrating. You're going to realize that there's a lot more competition out there than you thought. You're not going to be as successful. So when you have that moment of clarity, tell me a little bit about how you took that mindset shift and started kind of rolling with it, how the company started transitioning into that different way of seeing things, and some of your early successes when you had that different view than what you started off with.
Well, it was scary, but I ended up deciding to create a partnered talent section on my website, which I was like, almost like the half of the roofers who commented on your post and said, well, what are you doing? This is working with your competition. It kind of felt like that, because I was like, somebody's coming to my website and I'm saying, here, this guy's great. This lady's great. And the first time somebody reached out to me, it was actually a fairly big project that they reached out about. And they said, I really like Mark's voice on your website. Can we work with him? And that first moment, I was like, I think that was supposed to feel like crap. Like, that was supposed to feel like a loss for me, but for some reason it kind of felt like a win. And I was able to refer that project to Mark. Mark also paid me a commission for that project, which I think is, another great way. It wasn't why I did it, but I think it's another great way to incentivize this. And then I ended up like really enjoying that for some reason. I don't know if it just felt good to help somebody else, or, the law of reciprocity I just knew it would probably come back to me someday. And he's made some referrals and some introductions for me that have been extremely valuable. And we've gone back and forth. And this is the case with several other people that I work with too. It just felt good. It just felt right. It was a little like counterintuitive at first, because I had spent several years just feeling so like I have to beat these people, and now I'm working with them, but it's an entirely different mindset. And I found so much more success. Now I look through my projects, I'm like, half of them have been referred to by other people, or somehow in some way started with somebody else. I realized I can't do this business thing on my own. There's no way. I can't go out and get it's not scalable. It's frustrating. It's like almost like sending out a whole bunch of different salespeople for you when you have referral partners. They're almost like salespeople for you. They're working for themselves full time, but they got you kind of in the back of their minds. And if you're doing the same for them, that is a win-win all around. So that's really taken things to the next level for me. What I also decided to do just to make this even more beneficial is start with some editing, start with some production things, really get away from just voiceover and really go into the podcast production, the radio ad production. And then what I'll be able to do is actually profit from some of the referrals that I might make by having them do the voicing and I'll do the production or something along those lines, and make it kind of a win-win for everybody, but still involve them. And what that also does is it provides the best fit, the best possible voice for that client, which is really something that I can't underestimate. Even though I did early on, I thought I could try to be everything to everyone, but providing that best fit, the client appreciates it, the referral partner appreciates it, I appreciate it because I'll eventually get likely referrals in return. It's just a win-win-win all around. I think to myself, how could I have been so stupid?
And you're right. It just takes that evolution, and it takes that moment where one person reaches out and says, "Hey, dude, you're not going to take on the world. You're not going to win like that." And once you embrace that and realize, okay, this is actually pretty cool, you start telling people, "Hey, maybe I'm not the right guy for this particular project." Down the road, you're going to get that back in spades because they're going to say, "Hey, you know what? This guy wasn't in it just for a paycheck. He wasn't here just to take advantage of the situation and provide us maybe a subpar product just so he could benefit and move on to the next." People really do appreciate that. And one of the greatest sources of pride that I have is, like I said, last night we had a hailstorm. I had multiple people from my industry from all over the United States go onto my post and say, "You know what? If I was a homeowner in San Antonio, Chuck is the guy I would use. He helps people all over the country. He trains people. He teaches us the right way to do things. And we want to give him the credit for that. And we want you guys to know that if you're in that market, he is the guy." And I think 15, 20 years ago, that was unheard of. And again, the evolution of technology, the internet being as far reaching as it is, I think this mindset has really come to the forefront. And I don't know that it would have been possible 20 years ago, when everybody's just looking in the yellow pages and they say,
Right.
roofers. Well, if your company doesn't start with like 6-letter A's, A plus, because I got to be better than A plus, and so on and so forth, you'd kind of get lost in the shuffle, and everybody was really kind of fighting for it. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the way that the world has evolved with technology is now you can have people from all over the place reach out and say, "Hey, this is a great guy to work with in your area. This is someone that could probably fit you better." And once you hit that mindset shift and you start having that success, you really start to realize the possibilities are now endless. You've got people all over the world that are advocating for you that would have not been able to years ago. And I think that as we've continued to change the way that we deliver our services to people, it's only going to continue to get bigger. So let me ask you this. You've seen this progression. You've gone from, sleepless nights to now saying, "Hey, you know what? This is pretty good. And I'm actually doing really well. Now I'm enjoying it a lot more." What does the next 5 to 10 years look like for you as far as your development of the company, your expectations for yourself? And, what does the future hold for you as it pertains to what you're currently doing?
Well, I believe you have to love your industry. And just like we talked about, how unhealthy competition can crush your industry as a whole, because now people are racing to the bottom. Now people are trying to, in voiceover, it's people are trying to use AI voices and pass them off as their own, and now there's this mistrust for the entire voiceover industry as a whole and the entire audio production industry. So I just want to be an advocate for the industry and just be somebody who does things the right way, right? And be somebody who provides the best client service. So that's what I'll be working on for the next 5 to 10 years, is to continue to hone that craft. The other thing that I believe, after starting to read a lot of personal development books and I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, is that the best way to grow, and really the only way to grow, is to step outside of your comfort zone. So while I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing and loving every minute of my day-to-day work, what I also like to do is intentionally, it sounds weird, but intentionally make myself uncomfortable in situations in life, because that's how I believe I'll grow. Like, for example, last year I decided, got the opportunity to teach a college class. And I said to myself, I've never taught, I have no training. I don't know what I'm doing. And I decided, but you know what? That would make me uncomfortable. So why don't I give it a shot? I've given it a shot. I still teach the college class to this day on the side, and not my favorite thing to do, not gonna lie, not the most natural feeling thing for me, but I'm continuing to grow, to develop public speaking skills, develop those interpersonal skills with the younger generation, which I wish I could call myself part of, but I'm getting too old now for that. It's just those little things. Now learning an instrument, trying to get myself out of that comfort zone. And what I found, which is weird, but it's true, is that helps me in business. That helps me be more flexible and adaptable. It has nothing to do with business, but it gives me a different energy. It gives me a different confidence that I can do uncomfortable things. And that to me has been game changing. So continuing to do that over the next 5 to 10 years, of course, grow the business. People say, how are you going to scale your business? There's only one of you. You can't recreate your voice. Yeah, I'm not really worried about scaling, so to speak. I want to continue to build relationships and continue to work with great people. And yeah, of course, increase income and all those things. But as far as becoming some big conglomerate or empire, that's never really been my concern. But what I do want to do is continue to grow personally and professionally.
What a great mindset and a great outlook, because I agree with you. I started out this venture and my goal was to have 50 offices and to do $75 million a year in business. And I grew it pretty quick. We had 3 offices in the first 18 months.
Wow.
It was one of those stories where I came to San Antonio. We bought a dead brand. This company was literally out of business. I had never been to San Antonio a minute in my life. So it was like, you talk about being uncomfortable. I just decided, hey, let's do this. I got asked a question. Hey, you want to go to San Antonio and revive a dead company? Sure, that sounds fun. I believed in myself, and I think that's the most important thing. But at the end of the day, maybe I really didn't believe in myself as much as I thought. So as you continue to evolve and you see these little pieces of success and it starts to grow and develop, you start to make those relationships and you start to really enjoy it a lot more. You realize, okay, I can do this. And your confidence continues to build. You continue to have more and more success. And the reality of the matter is we then shut the company down in 2023 and it was closed down for an entire year.
Wow.
In that year, I did the same thing. Let me get more uncomfortable. I showed up on stage at a conference. I was a co-MC. I got to introduce some of the most well-known people, not just in my industry, but in business and some UFC fighters and people that are famous, And as I kept doing that, I kept getting more and more confidence. The opportunity came back in 2023 to reopen the company and start it again. And this time around, I have the same mindset. I'm not trying to do $75 million. I'm trying to enjoy myself. I'm trying not to be stressed. And I want to help the people to the very best of my ability. And the key to that is not to outkick my coverage, not to take on more than I can accomplish, more than I can produce at the highest level. And it's really tough because when you get something like this big storm that came through last night, everybody right now that's not named Chuck is probably on their way to a neighborhood that they saw on a map that got smashed with hail. They're going to be out there knocking on every single door, trying to appeal to every single homeowner. 35, 40 people a day are going to be knocking on the same door. And I'm over here thinking, well, you know what? I built up a nice little referral base. I built up a nice, happy base of clients that are going to refer their friends if they're in that neighborhood. I've got people from my industry referring me already. And just having that different thought process of let's just enjoy this. Let's not get stressed out. I make a good living. I don't care to be a multi-bazillionaire like I used to, because that mindset I think was going to kill me. And when I realized it can all go away if you don't have a calculated approach and you don't maintain that direction that you want to go in. I joke and tell people all the time, it's the tortoise and the hare now for me. I see all these rabbits out there that are just go, 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 go. And yeah, they're 20 some years younger than I am. So they've got that energy, haven't been kicked in the face a bunch of times like I have over my career, but I think I'm ultimately much happier right now than I've ever been. I think that I'm going to end up being extremely successful because I do believe in myself and I know what I can bring to the table. But if you do that and you do the best work possible, you don't have to worry about, you know, if it rains tonight, I'm going to have a bunch of people calling because I hired random people to do these jobs because I got in over my head. And that ultimately is the key to success. So I really love that. I love the mentality that you've got about let's just be the best at what we do. Let's continue to grow and evolve. And those opportunities become much more plentiful because people recognize that you're not there to take advantage of them. You're not going to put a subpar product out. And 5-10 years from now, some of these guys aren't going to be around. And I hope, good Lord willing, I still am. So definite respect for that. We're at 50 minutes already in our conversation, which is amazing to me because this has been so much fun. We'll start to kind of wind it down. I like to keep the episodes around an hour. And before we got started, I told you there's going to be a potential opportunity for us to maybe gain you some clients through this podcast. The roofing industry, surprisingly to a lot of people, is very media content heavy. It's one of those things that a lot of people have decided to take and run with, myself included. And a lot of people watch this from my industry. So if someone's watching this right now and they're like, hey, you know what? I don't really like the way I sound. I don't like the way that I look. I put this content together and it's not vibing correctly with my people. This guy, John, seems like he knows his stuff. He's pretty cool. Maybe I can reach out and get a little bit of help from him or maybe swing some business his way. What are some ways that people can find you, that can inquire about potentially, using your services? And again, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit, but you never know unless you try, or, the answer is always no unless you ask. So what are some ways that people that are watching Keepin It Rio right now, which someday down the road is going to be millions and millions of people. I told you earlier, Joe Rogan is my target. So I've got to have several people watching it for that to happen. But if anybody's watching right now and they think, you know what? I like this guy. He'd be pretty good. His voice kind of fits the inflection that we're looking for with our customers. We want it to sound a specific way and he fits the bill. How do we go about making that happen?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Chuck. I would say that you can email me, john@jonathangoehring.com. You can visit my website, jonathangoehring.com, to get a little bit more about me. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. That's kind of my main platform because that's where a lot of the business people are hanging out, and it's where I post daily and all those things interact. But I'm also, on Facebook and on all the other platforms. I'm at least responsive, so you can always reach out to me there. But probably the easiest way, john@jonathangoehring.com. I produce a lot of ads, which was kind of the bread and butter to start out, is producing ads for companies who are looking to expand their reach, whether it be for TV, radio, or social media. Video or audio ads was a lot of what I was doing, whether it's my voice or I think somebody else's voice is a better fit, along with those visuals, making your images, your videos stand out and come together and look real professional together. That's what a lot of people hire me for. And then what I'm also doing right now, which is cool, is I have a podcast package too for people who are looking to start up a podcast. Podcasting is such a great way to grow your brand. It's a way that I help people. They think it's really intimidating. They might not want to dive into starting a podcast, but I've been helping some people start podcasts and work with them to not only become a better podcaster, but to also use a podcast as content for their brand, repurposed. And so they don't have to find another piece of content to create every day. They just record a podcast once a week, and then I repurpose all that content for them for the rest of the week so that their business shines. So that's what I love to do. I'm very passionate about it, and always open to conversations too. Like you said, Chuck, if we're not a good fit, that's totally okay. I'm happy to help you in any way I can or point you in the right direction. John@jonathangoehring.com is the best way to reach out.
There you go. I guarantee someone's going to reach out to you because there is a huge I don't even know what the word that I'm looking for, but the podcasting has just continued to take off. And it seems like every week there's, 3 or 4 new ones that pop up on my feed. And a lot of people are intimidated by it, like you said. So this is a great opportunity to do something fun, to have a very professional presentation, and not to get inundated with all of that minutia that you've got to go through while you're also trying to run a different kind of business. So
Right.
I definitely appreciate that. One thing I need to do before I thank you for your time, and you're going to appreciate this as someone who's a radio guy, I need to thank my sponsors. And everyone that watches Keepin It Rio is probably pretty well aware at this point that my main sponsor is roofer.com, and that's ROOFR.com. And John, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Roofer real quick. I'm sure you've probably heard of it and probably know everything already, but let me tell you a little bit more about it. So Roofer is a software package that was developed by roofers for roofers and started off about maybe 7-8 years ago as a measurement tool where they utilize satellite images, scale that down, and figure out how to measure someone's roof without having to go out there and actually take a tape measure and a calculator and actually figure it out by, mathematical purposes. And as it's evolved over the course of time, Roofer now has a full-scale CRM, which basically takes you from the initial contact with your client. You can get an instant estimate in under 2 minutes on multiple roof systems by clicking a link or scanning a QR code. And it walks you through the entire process all the way up to the final payment, which I'm about 10 minutes away from collecting a final payment through Roofer this morning on a job that we did. And the truth of the matter is, I actually spoke to this homeowner one time for about 10 minutes before he agreed and signed all the documents. Everything was done through Roofer. And it is an amazing company that has grown exponentially over the last couple of years to now become what I believe the prominent industry leader in what it does. And that's basically to help roofers like me avoid time-consuming activities that were taking up way too much of our day. And this is my 3rd year with Roofer as a sponsor. I really love everybody at Roofer. They're a great team. They take care of people. Best in the industry. So thank you to Roofer as always. I'll cut this one up and it'll be one of those, Roofer ads that I put out later as well. But appreciate everything they do for me. I could probably still do the podcast without the sponsors, but having them makes my life a lot easier, and they do a lot for my roofing business. So thank you, Roofer. I also want to thank Smart Tarp and Bradford Roofing Supply, who also contribute to my podcast. Those guys are amazing partners as well. So that said, John, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you getting up early, talking to a random guy in San Antonio about mindset. This has been absolutely a pleasure. I've enjoyed every bit of our conversation, and I think it kind of shows that mindset can go against, just about any industry, any line of work that you're in. It's the way that you perceive things and the way that you look at it. I'm a huge advocate of the collaboration versus competition mindset. And you've just proven that it works across the board. So thank you for taking time today, for being here. Before we bid you adieu for the day, my friend, anything you'd like to end this episode with, any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience that we haven't already shared, anything like that? And then we'll thank our people. We'll play a little ad for Roofer, and you and I will go out and slay the world.
I want to thank you, Chuck, and just recognize how well you're doing with this podcast. I mean, look at this guy's background. If you're watching right now, like I'm getting a little like, what am I doing here? I need a logo or something back there, and I'm supposed to be the guy who knows branding. But you, Chuck, are really crushing it with this podcast. I mean, the fact you got a couple of great sponsors working with you, that's awesome. A word of wisdom that I would leave you with is from a podcast that I listened to called the Ed Milet Show that really changed my life. And he told me something that I will never forget. He said that the best way, if you're looking to build confidence in yourself, and confidence is currency, it really is when you're doing anything in life, is you have to keep the promises that you make to yourself. So what I would say, if you're listening, you're looking to just make your life a little bit better, 1% improvement today, think about what's one promise you can make to yourself today. Maybe it's you want to do a workout, so you're going to promise to yourself today, I'm going to work out for 20 minutes. Make that promise to yourself. Keep that promise to yourself. Then you'll be gaining that reputation with yourself that you are a trustworthy person, no matter what it is in life and business and fitness, anything. And as you continue to do that over and over and over again, you build unbreakable self-confidence. And believe me, it is true.
There you go. And quite honestly, I'm going to end it like this. one of the promises I've made to myself and I've publicly stated, Ed Milet will be a guest on Keepin' It Rio sometime in the not too distant future. I've actually met the guy before. He's a great dude. Oh,
unbelievable.
Yeah. We talked for a couple minutes, but he's a terrific guy. And I know some people who know Ed Milet personally. And I've stated publicly, he will be one of mine because the power of one more has been something that has helped me throughout life. It's a great book and it's just a great concept. And yeah, Ed Milet, that's pretty awesome. So great way to end the episode. John, thank you for your time. Thank you everybody for watching and supporting Keepin' It Rio. Always remember to like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. And we'll continue to grow this program to whatever it can possibly be. And we're going to leave you today with a brief ad for Roofer. John, if you would stick around for just a couple seconds and you and I will have a off-air conversation. But until next week, like I always like to end my conversations, cheesiest tagline in the world, keep on keeping it Rio. And we will see you guys next Thursday. Thank you for being here.
We're Roofer. We know that managing a roofing business can be chaotic, so we created a single platform with all the tools you need to easily run your roofing business. Stop switching between multiple different softwares and experience streamlined operations from lead to payments in hours instead of days. Visit roofr.com to get started for free today.